Don't touch her. Marcus Sterling froze. His own son, his 4-year-old boy, had just shoved him away, hard. Oliver stood between Marcus and the black woman in the gray apron, arms spread wide, tiny body, trembling with fury. You can't take her. I won't let you. Marcus had closed billion-dollar deals. He'd crushed competitors without blinking. But nothing had prepared him for this, his child choosing a stranger over his own father. The woman behind Oliver was crying. Oliver was crying. And Marcus Sterling, for the first time in his life, had no idea what to do. Drop your city below. Let's see how far this story reaches. Don't touch her. Oliver's small hands hit Marcus's chest before he could react. The impact wasn't strong. He was only 4, but Marcus stumbled backward like he'd been shot. Oliver, what are you? No! Oliver screamed, his face red, tears streaming. You can't have her. She's mine. The boy planted himself in front of the woman, arms spread wide, shielding her with his body. Marcus stared at his son, then at the woman. She was young, black, wearing a gray apron stained with something, tears maybe, or food. Her shoulders shook as she sobbed into her hand. Who the hell are you? Marcus demanded. The woman flinched. Mr. Sterling, Daddy, stop! Oliver grabbed the woman's apron, pulling her down, wrapping himself around her. Don't yell at Miss Grace. Don't you dare yell at her. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. His son had just defended a stranger against him. His own father. Oliver! Marcus forced his voice steady. Come here. Right now. No. Oliver. No. The boy buried his face in the woman's shoulder. I hate you. I hate you. The words hit Marcus like a hammer to the chest. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't move. He couldn't think. Oliver, please. His voice cracked. Please, buddy, just come here. You left me. Oliver screamed, his whole body shaking. You always leave. You never come back. You don't call. You don't sing the bedtime song. You don't do anything. I was working. I don't care. Oliver's voice broke into sobs. Miss Grace stayed. Miss Grace holds me when I have bad dreams. Miss Grace sings the song, Right Where Were You? Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. The woman Grace finally spoke. Her voice trembled but held firm. Mr. Sterling, I'm sorry. I tried to prepare him for your return, but... How long? Marcus interrupted. Excuse me. How long has he been like this? Grace's jaw tightened. Since the 2nd week. That's impossible. Mrs. Patterson would have told me. Mrs. Patterson quit, Grace said flatly. 14 days ago. She said she couldn't handle him anymore. Handle him? He's 4 years old. Exactly. Grace's eyes met his. He's 4 years old, Mr. Sterling. And he's been alone in this house for almost a month, crying himself to sleep every single night, waiting for a father who never came. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. I called, he said weakly. I called every week. You called the house phone, Grace corrected. Oliver can't reach the house phone, and even if he could, a phone call isn't a father. Watch your tone. No. Grace's voice hardened. You watch yours. You walked into your own kitchen and treated me like a criminal because your son loves me. Think about that. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. I don't have to explain myself to the help. Grace laughed bitterly. The help. Right. The help who held your son for 3 hours last Tuesday while he screamed for his mother. The help who cleaned up his sheets when he wet the bed from nightmares. The help who learned his favorite song and sang it 15 times in one night because it was the only thing that made him stop shaking. She stepped forward, Oliver still clinging to her. Where were you, Mr. Sterling? Where were you when your son needed you? I was building his future. He doesn't want a future. Grace shot back. He wants a father. He wants someone to hold him when he's scared. He wants someone to tell him the monsters aren't real. Can your money do that? Can your empire do that? Marcus stood frozen. He had no answer. Oliver lifted his head from Grace's shoulder. His eyes were swollen. His cheeks were wet. He looked at his father with an expression that broke Marcus completely. "Daddy," Oliver whispered, "why don't you love me anymore?" The question shattered something inside Marcus that would never fully heal. "What?" His voice came out strangled. "Oliver, I love you more than anything." "Then why do you keep leaving?" "I have to work, buddy. I have to." "Mommy left too," Oliver said quietly. "Miss Grace said she didn't want to, but she left anyway. And now you keep leaving. And one day, you're not going to come back either." Marcus's knees buckled. He hit the floor hard, right there on the cold tile, and something broke loose inside him. A sound came out half sob, half gasp, that he didn't recognize as his own voice. "Oliver," he choked out. "I'm always coming back. Always. I promise." "You promised before," Oliver said. "You promised you'd call on my birthday. You didn't." Marcus's mind raced. Oliver's birthday. October 15th. He'd been in Singapore closing the Tanaka deal. His assistant had sent a gift. A bicycle. The most expensive one money could buy. But he hadn't called. He'd forgotten to call his own son on his birthday. "Oh God," Marcus whispered. "Oh God, Oliver, I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix it." Oliver's voice rose again. "Sorry doesn't make the bad dreams go away. Sorry doesn't make Mommy come back." "Buddy, Mommy can't come back. She—" "I know!" Oliver screamed. "I know she's dead. Miss Grace told me. She told me Mommy loved me, and she didn't want to go, but sometimes people have to leave, and it's not their fault." Marcus's head snapped toward Grace. "You told him about Catherine." Grace met his gaze without flinching. He asked. He deserved the truth. He's 4 years old. And he's been having nightmares about his mother every single night since you left. He needed to understand. That wasn't your place. Then whose place was it? Grace demanded. Yours? You weren't here. You're never here. Someone had to help him, and I was the only one left. Marcus wanted to argue. He wanted to rage. He wanted to fire this woman and throw her out of his house and pretend none of this had ever happened. But he couldn't. Because she was right. Every word she said was right. "How do you know about Catherine?" Marcus asked quietly. "Oliver told me. He found pictures in the attic. He asked who the beautiful lady with the big belly was. What was I supposed to say?" Marcus closed his eyes. The attic. He'd locked Catherine's things up there after her funeral, unable to face them. He'd never imagined Oliver would find them. "What did you tell him?" Grace's voice softened. "I told him his mother was the bravest woman in the world, that she loved him so much she gave her life to bring him here, that she's watching over him every single day even if he can't see her." Marcus's throat closed. That's what I would have said." "Then why didn't you—" The question hung in the air like a blade. Marcus had no answer. Oliver sniffled, pulling back slightly from Grace. He looked at his father, still crumpled on the kitchen floor, and something shifted in his expression. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe curiosity. "Daddy?" "Yeah, buddy." "Why are you crying?" Marcus touched his face. His fingers came away wet. He hadn't realized. "Because I hurt you," he said honestly. "And I'm sorry, and I don't know how to fix it." Oliver considered this. His grip on Grace loosened slightly. "Miss Grace says sorry is just a word. She says you have to show people you're sorry with what you do, not what you say." Marcus looked at Grace. She shrugged slightly. "My mother used to say that," she explained quietly. Your mother was smart, Marcus said. She was. Oliver tugged on Grace's apron. Miss Grace, is Daddy staying this time? Grace looked at Marcus. I don't know, sweetheart. That's up to him. Daddy. Oliver's eyes fixed on his father. Are you staying? Marcus took a breath, then another. He thought about the meetings scheduled for tomorrow, the conference call with London, the presentation in Tokyo next week, the empire he'd built brick by brick over the past 4 years. Then he thought about his son's face when he'd said, I hate you. Yeah, buddy, Marcus said slowly. I'm staying. For how long? I don't know yet, but for now, for as long as you need me. Oliver's lower lip trembled. What if I need you forever? Something broke and healed at the same time inside Marcus's chest. Then forever, he said. I'll figure it out. I promise. Pinky promise. Marcus held out his pinky. Oliver stared at it for a long moment, 10 seconds, maybe 15, weighing trust against experience, hope against pain. Then his tiny finger wrapped around his father's. Okay, Oliver whispered. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a door cracking open. Grace exhaled slowly. She'd been holding her breath. Oliver, she said gently, do you want to show your daddy the picture you drew? The superhero one? Oliver's eyes lit up just slightly, just for a moment, but it was there. The one with me and Daddy fighting the nightmare monster. That's the one. Oliver looked at Marcus uncertainly. You want to see it? More than anything, Marcus said. And meant it. Oliver released Grace's apron finally fully and grabbed his father's hand instead. It's in my room. Come on. He pulled Marcus toward the stairs with surprising strength. Marcus stumbled to his feet, letting himself be led, looking back at Grace over his shoulder. She stood alone in the kitchen, arms wrapped around herself, tears still drying on her cheeks. Grace. She looked up. Don't leave. Please. She held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded once. I'll make coffee. And maybe try the rice again. Forget the rice. We're ordering pizza. For the first time, Grace smiled. Small. Tired. But real. Pepperoni. Whatever Oliver wants. He'll want cheesy bread too. Then cheesy bread it is. Oliver tugged harder on Marcus's hand. Daddy, come on! Marcus let himself be pulled up the stairs, his son's hand warm in his heart, cracking and healing with every step. Behind him, he heard Grace turn off the ruined pot. Heard her pick up the phone to order pizza. Heard her voice, soft and kind, placing an order for a family that wasn't hers. A family that was broken. A family that might have a chance to heal. Oliver's room was exactly as Marcus remembered it. Blue walls, star-shaped nightlight. Stuffed animals arranged on the bed in precise order, a habit he'd inherited from Catherine, who'd been borderline obsessive about symmetry. Look. Daddy, look. Oliver pulled a piece of construction paper from under his pillow and thrust it toward Marcus. The drawing was chaos stick figures, swirls of black crayon, something that might have been a monster, but 2 figures stood out clearly. One tall, one small, both wearing capes. That's you, Oliver said, pointing to the tall one. And that's me. We're fighting the nightmare monster. Marcus's throat tightened. Who's winning? We are, because superheroes always win when they fight together. Together, Marcus repeated. Miss Grace says that's the secret. She says nightmares are scary alone, but they're not scary when someone holds your hand. Miss Grace is pretty smart, huh? Oliver nodded vigorously. The smartest. She knows everything. She knows about dinosaurs and space, and how to make grilled cheese without burning it. That's impressive. Mrs. Patterson always burned the grilled cheese, and she never sang the bedtime song right. Oliver's face darkened. I didn't like Mrs. Patterson. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, pulling Oliver onto his lap. Tell me about the nightmares, buddy. Oliver stiffened. I don't want to. I know, but I need to understand, so I can help. Oliver was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he started talking. I see Mommy. She's walking away. I try to run after her, but my legs don't work. I scream and scream, but she can't hear me. And then she's gone. And everything goes dark, and I can't find anyone. I call for you, but you don't come. I call for Miss Grace, but she's not there either. And I'm all alone, forever. Marcus held his son tighter. I'm sorry, Oliver. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. Miss Grace was there, Oliver said quietly. She heard me screaming. She came. She held me. She sang the song. What song? Oliver hesitated. Then, in a small voice, he began to sing. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Marcus's blood turned to ice. That was Catherine's song, the song she'd sung to her belly every night during her pregnancy. The song Marcus had sung to Oliver when he was an infant, before the grief became too heavy, before he'd stopped being able to hear it without breaking down. He hadn't sung that song in 3 years. How does Miss Grace know that song? Marcus whispered. I told her about it. I heard you sing it when I was really little. I remembered. I asked her to learn it. Oliver looked up at his father. She practiced until she got it right. She said it was important to get it right because it was Mommy's song. Marcus closed his eyes as tears spilled down his cheeks. This woman, this stranger he'd hired with a 2-minute phone call, had learned his dead wife's lullaby to comfort his grieving son. And he hadn't even remembered her name. Daddy, are you okay? Yeah, buddy. Marcus wiped his face. I'm really grateful for Miss Grace. Me too. Oliver snuggled closer. Can she stay forever? I think that's up to her. But you're the boss. You can tell her to stay. It doesn't work like that, Oliver. People aren't things you can own. Miss Grace gets to choose where she wants to be. Oliver considered this. What if I ask really nicely? Despite everything, Marcus laughed. That might help. I'm really good at asking nicely. Miss Grace says I'm the politest 4-year-old she's ever met. Is that so? Uh-huh. I say please and thank you, and I never forget to flush the toilet. Well, almost never. Almost never is pretty good. That's what Miss Grace says. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, father and son, the weight of the past month slowly lifting. Then Oliver asked the question Marcus had been dreading. Daddy, did Mommy love me? More than anything in the world. But she never held me. Miss Grace said she died when I was being born. That's true. So she never got to hold me. Marcus's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Nobody. She didn't. Did she want to? More than anything. She talked to you every single day while you were in her tummy. She sang to you. She told you stories. She picked out your name. Marcus's voice broke. She couldn't wait to meet you. But then she had to leave. Yes. Like you keep leaving. The comparison cut deep. I always come back, Oliver. But what if one day you don't? What if one day you leave, and you don't come back like Mommy? Marcus pulled his son closer, holding him so tight he could feel the boy's heartbeat against his chest. I can't promise I'll live forever, he said carefully. Nobody can promise that. But I can promise you this, I will never, ever leave you on purpose, and I will always, always do everything I can to come back to you. Pinky promise? Pinky promise. Oliver held up his pinky. They locked fingers again. Daddy? Yeah, buddy. I'm glad you came home. Me too. I'm sorry I said I hated you. I don't really hate you. I know. I was just really mad. You had every right to be mad. Miss Grace says it's okay to be mad, but it's not okay to be mean. I was mean. I'm sorry. Marcus kissed the top of his son's head. I forgive you. Do you forgive me? Oliver thought about it. Really thought in that serious way only children can. I'm working on it, he said finally. Marcus almost laughed. That's fair. Miss Grace says forgiveness takes time. She says you have to feel it, not just say it. Miss Grace is very wise. She's the wisest. Oliver yawned suddenly, the exhaustion of the morning finally catching up to him. Daddy. Yeah. Will you stay while I take a nap? Just stay here. I'm not going anywhere. Oliver nodded sleepily, curling into his father's chest. Within minutes, his breathing slowed, evened out, deepened into sleep. Marcus held him watching his son's face relax into peace for the first time in weeks, and he made himself a promise. No more missed birthdays, no more empty phone calls, no more choosing the empire over the boy. Oliver deserved better. Catherine would have demanded better, and Grace, this woman who had walked into his house as a stranger and become his son's lifeline, had shown him what better looked like. Marcus sat there for a long time, listening to his son breathe, feeling the small heartbeat against his own. When he finally heard footsteps in the hallway, he looked up to find Grace standing in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. Pizza's on its way, she whispered. Thank you. She handed him a cup, keeping her distance, respecting the moment. He told me about the song, Marcus said quietly. Catherine's song, the lullaby. Grace nodded. He asked me to learn it. It took me a week to get it right. He's a tough critic. Thank you for doing that. For everything. Grace looked at the sleeping boy in his father's arms. He's easy to love, she said simply. The hard part was watching him hurt. I should have been here. Yes, you should have. She paused. But you're here now. That matters. Marcus took a sip of coffee. It was good. Strong. Exactly what he needed. Tell me something, Grace. What? Why do you care so much? He's not your son. This isn't your family. You could have done the minimum, kept the house clean, made sure he ate, reported to my assistant. But you didn't. You went above and beyond. Why? Grace was quiet for a long moment. Because I know what it feels like, she finally said. To be alone in the dark. To scream for someone and have no one come. To feel like the whole world forgot you exist. Your mother. After she died, I had to raise my brothers alone. I was 19. I had no idea what I was doing. There were nights I cried harder than they did. She looked at Oliver. When I heard him screaming that first night, I saw myself, saw my brothers, saw every kid who ever needed someone and had no one. So you became his someone. I didn't plan to. It just happened. She shrugged. Love doesn't ask permission. It just shows up and demands you deal with it. Marcus looked at her, really looked for the first time since she'd walked into his life. She wasn't beautiful in the conventional sense. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. Her apron was stained. Her eyes were red from crying. But there was something about her. A strength, a warmth, a depth that money couldn't buy and time couldn't fake. Stay, he said suddenly. Grace blinked. What? Stay. Not just as a housekeeper. As, I don't know, as whatever you want to be. But stay. Please. Mr. Sterling. Marcus. Marcus. She hesitated. I don't think that's appropriate. I'm your employee. He's your son. There are boundaries. Forget the boundaries. Marcus interrupted. My son needs you. I need... He stopped. I need help. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be the father he deserves. But you do. You figured it out in 3 weeks. Teach me. Grace stared at him. You're serious? Completely. I'm not a nanny. I'm not a therapist. I'm just... You're the person who saved my son when I wasn't there. That makes you more important than any nanny or therapist I could hire. Oliver stirred in his sleep, mumbling something about superheroes. Grace watched him, her expression softening. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll stay. But I have conditions." "Name them." "First, you actually show up. No more month-long trips. No more forgotten birthdays. You be his father, or I walk." "Done." "Second, you get him professional help. Real help. A child psychologist, someone who specializes in grief. I can hold his hand through nightmares, but he needs more than that." "Done." "Third, you don't treat me like the help. I don't want to be your employee anymore. I want to be his." She struggled for the word. "His person. His safe place. That means I need authority to make decisions when you're not here. Real authority." Marcus nodded slowly. "What would you call that? What role?" Grace thought about it. "Guardian," she said finally. "Not legally. Just functionally. Someone who has his back no matter what." "Guardian," Marcus repeated. "I like that. There's one more thing." "What?" Grace met his eyes directly. "You have to forgive yourself." Marcus flinched. "What? You've been punishing yourself since your wife died. Throwing yourself into work, pushing away everyone who could get close. You think if you suffer enough, it'll make up for losing her. It won't. The only way forward is through. You have to face the grief, not run from it." "How do you know about—" "Because I did the same thing. After my mother died, I worked myself to the bone, told myself I was being strong. But I wasn't. I was just scared. Scared that if I stopped moving, the grief would catch up and swallow me whole." "Did it?" Grace smiled sadly. "Eventually, yeah, it caught up, and I let it swallow me. And then I climbed back out. That's what grief does. It drowns you, but it doesn't kill you. Not unless you let it." Marcus looked at his sleeping son, then back at Grace. "I don't know how to do that," he admitted. "Face it. I've been running for so long." "You don't have to do it alone," Grace said. "That's the whole point. You find people who will stand with you in the dark, and then you face it together. Like Oliver's superhero drawing. Exactly like that." Grace set down her coffee cup. "So what do you say, Marcus Sterling ready to fight some nightmare monsters?" For the first time in 4 years, Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. Not quite hope, not quite peace, but something close. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I think I am." Grace nodded, extended her hand. Marcus shook it. "Then let's get started," she said. And somewhere in that moment, in that quiet bedroom with a sleeping boy between them, something shifted. A family began to form. Not by blood, not by marriage, but by choice. The hardest kind, and the strongest. The pizza arrived 20 minutes later. Oliver woke to the sound of the doorbell. His eyes snapping open with the instant alertness only children possess. "Pizza!" He scrambled off his father's lap and bolted for the stairs. "Oliver, wait," Marcus called, but the boy was already gone. Grace caught Marcus's eye and smiled. "He's fast when food's involved." "Was he always like this?" "Only when he's happy." She paused. "He hasn't been happy in a while." Marcus absorbed the words like a blow. He rose slowly, his legs stiff from sitting so long, and followed the sound of his son's excited chatter down the stairs. Oliver had already opened the door and was bouncing in front of the delivery guy, a gangly teenager, who looked mildly terrified by the small human vibrating at his feet. "Is that pepperoni?" "Miss Grace said pepperoni and cheesy bread. Did you bring cheesy bread?" Yeah, little dude, it's all here." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. He handed the kid a $100 bill. "Keep the change." The teenager's eyes went wide. "Seriously? Seriously? Thanks for being fast." The kid practically ran back to his car, and Marcus closed the door to find Oliver already carrying the pizza box toward the living room with the focus of a surgeon transporting a vital organ. "Careful, buddy, that's hot." "I know, Daddy. Miss Grace taught me about hot things. You have to respect them." "Respect them?" That's what she says. Hot things deserve respect because they can hurt you if you're not careful. Marcus glanced at Grace, who was gathering plates from the kitchen. That's actually really good advice. Grace shrugged. My mother used to say it. Worked on me and my brothers. Figured it was worth a shot. They settled on the living room floor, Oliver's insistence forming a loose circle around the pizza box. Oliver positioned himself exactly between Marcus and Grace, his small body serving as a bridge between two worlds that hadn't known they needed connecting. Daddy, you have to try the cheesy bread first. It's the rules. Whose rules? Mine and Miss Grace's. We made them. Marcus looked at Grace. You made pizza rules. We had a lot of Friday nights to fill. There was no accusation in her voice, but the words landed anyway. Right. Marcus picked up a piece of cheesy bread. Rules are rules. Oliver beamed, and for a moment everything felt almost normal, almost like a family. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the only sounds being Oliver's enthusiastic chewing and the occasional request for more napkins. Marcus watched his son, really watched him noticing things he'd missed before. The way Oliver's left eyebrow twitched when he was concentrating. The small scar on his chin from a fall, Marcus didn't remember. The way he automatically passed the first slice of pepperoni to Grace before taking one himself. When did he get that scar? Marcus asked quietly. Grace followed his gaze. 3 weeks ago. He was running in the hallway and tripped. Hit the corner of the coffee table. Was it bad? Bad enough. He needed 3 stitches. Marcus felt his stomach drop. 3 stitches? Why didn't anyone call me? Someone did. Your assistant said you were in a meeting and couldn't be disturbed. The words hung in the air like smoke. I didn't know, Marcus said. I swear I didn't know. I believe you. Grace's voice was gentle, but firm. But that's part of the problem, isn't it? You've built so many walls around yourself that nothing gets through, not even the things that matter. Oliver looked up a string of cheese dangling from his chin. What are you guys talking about? Grown-up stuff, Grace said smoothly. Eat your pizza. Grown-up stuff is boring. Very boring. That's why we save it for when you're not listening. Oliver considered this, then shrugged and returned to his meal. Marcus waited until the boy was distracted before speaking again. I want to know. Everything I missed. Every scrape, every nightmare, every time he asked for me and I wasn't there. That's a long list. I don't care. I need to know. Grace studied him for a moment, searching for something in his face. Whatever she found must have satisfied her, because she nodded slowly. Okay, but not tonight. Tonight is about him. She gestured toward Oliver. Let him have this. One good night before we dig into the hard stuff. Marcus wanted to argue. He wanted to demand the full accounting of his failures right then and there, like ripping off a bandage. But he looked at Oliver, happy, cheese-covered, laughing at nothing, and understood. Okay. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. They finished dinner as the sun set outside, casting long shadows through the windows. Oliver insisted on showing Marcus every drawing he'd made in the past month, a pile of construction paper that had apparently taken over an entire cabinet in the kitchen. This one's a dinosaur. This one's a rocket ship. This one's Miss Grace making pancakes. See? That's the spatula. And that's smoke because she burned the first one. I did not burn it, Grace protested. It was slightly crispy. It was black, Miss Grace. Black is burned. Black is caramelized. What's caramelized? It means burned but fancy. Oliver giggled, and the sound hit Marcus like sunlight after a storm. Show Daddy the other one, Grace said softly. The special one. Oliver's smile faded slightly. He shuffled through the papers until he found a drawing that looked different from the others. Darker. More careful. This one's Mommy, Oliver said quietly. Marcus's breath caught. The drawing showed a woman with long hair and a big belly standing next to a small figure that was clearly Oliver. They were holding hands. Above them in wobbly letters, Oliver had written, "Mommy and me in heaven." "Oliver," Marcus whispered. "This is beautiful." Miss Grace helped me spell heaven. I wanted to make sure Mommy could read it when she looked down. Marcus couldn't speak. His throat had closed completely. "Miss Grace says Mommy watches me all the time," Oliver continued. "She says when I feel scared I can talk to Mommy and she'll hear me, even if she can't talk back." Marcus looked at Grace, who was very deliberately not looking at him, her eyes fixed on Oliver with an expression of fierce tenderness. "That's true," Marcus managed. "Mommy is always watching. She loves you so much, buddy." "I know. Miss Grace told me." Oliver carefully placed the drawing back in the pile. "Daddy." "Yeah." "Do you talk to Mommy too?" The question caught Marcus off guard. He thought about the last 4 years, the silence, the avoidance, the way he'd locked Catherine's memory in a box and shoved it into the darkest corner of his mind. "I used to," he admitted, "but I stopped." "How come?" "Because it hurt too much." Oliver nodded slowly, with a wisdom that seemed impossible for his age. "Miss Grace says pain means you loved someone. She says it's the price you pay for letting someone into your heart." Marcus looked at Grace again. "You taught him that." "My mother taught me." Grace finally met his eyes. "After my father left, my mom cried every night for a year. I asked her why she kept crying if he was so bad. She said the pain wasn't about him, it was about the love she'd given him. That love didn't disappear just because he did." "Your father left when I was 6, never came back." "I'm sorry." Grace shrugged. "It was a long time ago, but it taught me something important." "What's that?" "That showing up matters more than anything else. You can be flawed, you can make mistakes, you can even hurt the people you love. But if you keep showing up, keep trying, keep fighting for them, that's what matters." Marcus absorbed her words, feeling them settle into his bones. "I want to keep showing up," he said quietly. "For him. For both of you." "Then do it. Don't just say it, do it." Oliver tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "Daddy, I'm tired. Can you put me to bed?" "Of course, buddy." "Will you stay until I fall asleep?" "I'll stay as long as you need." Oliver smiled a real smile, the kind Marcus had been dreaming about on the plane, and Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. Something that had been locked away for far too long. "Come on," Oliver said, grabbing his father's hand. "I'll show you the bedtime routine. Miss Grace has a whole system." "A system?" "It's very important. First we brush teeth, then we put on pajamas, then we read one story, then we say our gratitudes, then we sing the song." "Gratitudes?" "It's like thank yous, but for the day. Miss Grace says if you end the day thinking about good things, you have good dreams." Marcus looked at Grace, who was gathering the pizza boxes. "Does it work?" "Sometimes." She paused. "More often than it used to." Marcus followed Oliver up the stairs, acutely aware that he was walking into a routine he'd never been part of. His son had a whole life he knew nothing about. Rituals. Systems. A relationship with a woman who'd been a stranger a month ago. And whose fault was that? The bathroom was small but organized. Oliver's toothbrush was green, like a dinosaur, he explained, and his toothpaste was bubblegum flavored. "Miss Grace says you have to brush for 2 whole minutes. She times it." "Does she?" "Uh-huh. She says dentists aren't cheap, and neither is ice cream, so we better take care of our teeth." Marcus smiled despite himself. "Miss Grace has a lot of sayings." "She's very smart, I told you." They brushed together, Oliver watching his father in the mirror, with an intensity that felt like a test. Marcus made sure to brush for the full 2 minutes. "Good job, Daddy. You didn't cheat." "I would never." "Mrs. Patterson used to cheat. She only brushed for like 30 seconds and then said time was up. I knew she was lying because I counted in my head." That's very clever of you. Miss Grace says I'm the cleverest. But she also says being clever isn't as important as being kind. She's right about that too. Pajamas were next to set with rocket ships that Oliver had apparently picked out himself. Then they moved to the bedroom where Oliver carefully selected a book from the shelf. This one, he declared. Where the Wild Things Are. That was my favorite when I was your kid, Marcus said, surprised. I know. Miss Grace found it in the attic. She said it was yours. Can you read it the way you used to? The way I used to. With the voices. Miss Grace does voices, but she said you probably did them first because it was your book. Marcus took the worn paperback, feeling the weight of memory in his hands. He remembered his own mother reading this to him, doing the voices, making him laugh. He hadn't thought about that in years. Okay, he said softly. Let me see if I remember. He began to read, and the voices came back like they'd never left. Oliver curled up against his side, small and warm and trusting. When the story ended, Oliver looked up at his father with something new in his eyes. Something that looked almost like recognition. You're good at the voices, Daddy. Thanks, buddy. Will you read it again tomorrow? Every night if you want. I want. Marcus set the book aside. What's next? Gratitudes. Oliver nodded seriously. You go first. Me. Uh-huh. The grown-up goes first. That's the rule. Marcus thought for a moment. What was he grateful for? A month ago he would have said his company, his success, his portfolio. Now those answers felt hollow. I'm grateful I came home early, he said finally. And I'm grateful I found you. And I'm grateful for Miss Grace who took care of you when I couldn't. Oliver smiled. That's 3 things. You're only supposed to do 1. Can I break the rule just this once? I guess, since you're new. Thanks for the grace period. What's a grace period? It means extra time to learn the rules. Oh, that's nice. Oliver snuggled closer. My turn. I'm grateful Daddy came home. The simple words hit Marcus harder than anything else that day. Harder than the anger. Harder than the accusations. Harder than the guilt. His son was grateful he came home. That was enough. That was everything. Now the song, Oliver whispered. You remember it, right? Hush, little baby. That's the one. Marcus hesitated. He hadn't sung that song since Catherine died. Hadn't been able to. Every time he tried, he heard her voice instead of his own, and the grief swallowed him whole. But Oliver was looking at him with such hope, such trust, such desperate, fragile need. Marcus opened his mouth and began to sing. His voice cracked on the first line, and the second. By the third, tears were streaming down his face, but he kept going. He sang through the pain, through the grief, through 4 years of silence and avoidance. And somewhere in the middle, Oliver's small hand found his and held tight. When the song ended, Marcus couldn't speak. He just sat there holding his son's hand, feeling the weight of everything he'd lost and everything he still had. Daddy. Yeah, buddy. I like your voice better than Miss Grace's. Don't tell her I said that. Marcus laughed a wet, broken laugh that was half sob. Your secret's safe with me. Daddy. Yeah. I love you. 3 words. Simple. Ordinary. The kind of thing children say every day without thinking. But Marcus heard them like a lifeline thrown across an ocean of regret. I love you too, Oliver, more than anything in this world. More than your meetings. The question was innocent. The wound it opened was not. More than my meetings, Marcus said firmly. More than my work, more than money or success or anything else. You are the most important thing in my life. I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't. Oliver considered this. Okay. Okay. I believe you, but you have to prove it. I will, I promise. Pinky promise. They locked fingers for the 3rd time that day. Pinky promise. Oliver yawned, his eyes growing heavy. Will you stay until I fall asleep? I already told you I would. I know, but I wanted to make sure. I'm not going anywhere, buddy. I'm right here. Oliver closed his eyes, his breathing slowly evening out. Marcus stayed exactly where he was, watching his son drift off to sleep, feeling the small hand grow slack in his own. He didn't move for a long time. When he finally crept out of the room, leaving the door cracked so the hallway light could spill through, he found Grace waiting at the top of the stairs. "How'd it go?" she asked quietly. "I sang the song." Grace's eyes widened. The whole thing. The whole thing. How do you feel? Marcus thought about the question. Really thought. Like I've been holding my breath for 4 years, and I finally let it out. Grace nodded slowly. That's good. That's the first step. First step to what? To healing. To being the father he needs. She paused. To being human again. They stood in silence for a moment. Two strangers who had become something else, something neither of them had expected or planned for. Grace. Yes. Tell me about you. Not your mother, not your brothers. You. Who are you when no one's watching? Grace looked surprised by the question. Why do you want to know? Because you saved my son, and you're going to be part of his life now, part of our lives. I want to understand the person behind the apron. Grace almost smiled. There's not much to tell. I doubt that. She hesitated, then gestured toward the stairs. Let's go down. I could use some coffee. They settled in the kitchen, the same kitchen where Marcus had found his world turned upside down just hours earlier. Grace made coffee while Marcus sat at the counter watching her move with practiced efficiency. I grew up poor, Grace began, handing him a cup. Not sob story poor, we always had food and a roof, but there was never extra, never anything left over for dreams. What were your dreams? I wanted to be a teacher. Elementary school. I used to pretend my stuffed animals were students and give them lessons. She laughed softly. I had a whole curriculum planned out by the time I was 10. What happened? Life happened. My mom got sick when I was 17. I deferred college to help out. Then she died, and there was no money for college anymore. Just debt. So I dropped out and started working. Cleaning houses? Cleaning houses, waiting tables, whatever paid. My brothers were still in school. I wasn't going to let them give up their futures just because I'd lost mine. That's incredibly selfless. That's what family does. Grace shrugged. Or what it's supposed to do. Marcus thought about his own family. His father who'd been absent. His mother who'd been overwhelmed. The loneliness of growing up in a house full of people who never really saw each other. I didn't have that, he admitted. Family like that. I built everything myself because I didn't trust anyone else to do it. And now I'm realizing that building things alone means having no one to share them with. Grace nodded. That's another step. How many steps are there? As many as it takes. They drank their coffee in companionable silence, the weight of the day settling around them like dust. Can I ask you something? Marcus said finally. You can ask. I might not answer. Why did you stay? Those first weeks when Oliver was screaming and Patterson quit and everything was falling apart. Why didn't you just leave? Find another job, an easier family. Grace was quiet for a long moment. Because he needed me, she said finally. And I know what it's like to need someone and have no one show up. I couldn't do that to him, even when it was hard. Even when I went home and cried because I didn't know how to help him and there was no one to call. You cried. Every night, for the first 2 weeks. She met his eyes. Taking care of a grieving child is heartbreaking work. You pour everything you have into them, and some nights it's not enough. Some nights they still wake up screaming, and all you can do is hold them and wait for the storm to pass. I should have been here. Yes, you should have. Grace's voice was firm, but not cruel. But you weren't. So I was. And now you're here, and that's what matters. How can you be so forgiving? If I were you, I'd hate me. Grace set down her coffee cup. Hate takes energy. I'd rather spend that energy on something useful like helping Oliver, like helping you figure out how to be his father again. Why help me? I haven't earned that. No, you haven't. She paused. But Oliver loves you. Despite everything, despite all the pain and the absence, he loves you. And if I can help him get the father he deserves, then everything I went through was worth it. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Not quite gratitude, deeper than that. Something closer to awe. You're extraordinary, he said quietly. I hope you know that. Grace looked away, but not before Marcus caught the flash of emotion in her eyes. I'm just someone who showed up, she said. That's all any of us can do. It's more than most people manage. They sat in silence as the night deepened around them. Two people who had been strangers that morning and were now bound together by a sleeping child upstairs. I should go, Grace said eventually. It's late. You could stay. There are plenty of rooms. That's not appropriate. Probably not, but Oliver might need you. If he has a nightmare. Grace hesitated. Marcus could see the conflict playing across her face. Propriety versus care, boundaries versus necessity. Just for tonight, she said finally. Until we figure out a better arrangement. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Tomorrow we start the hard work. What hard work? Grace met his eyes with an intensity that made his breath catch. Teaching you how to be present. Really present. Not just physically in the room, but emotionally available. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. Harder than building a company from nothing. Much harder. Companies follow rules. Children follow hearts. You can't strategize your way into a 4-year-old's trust. You have to earn it moment by moment, day by day. And if I fail, then you try again. That's what parenting is, failing and trying again over and over until you get it right. The only real failure is giving up. Marcus thought about all the deals he'd closed, all the victories he'd won, all the times he'd refused to quit until he got what he wanted. Could he bring that same determination to fatherhood? Did he have a choice? I won't give up, he said firmly. Not on him, not ever. Grace studied his face for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Good. Then there's hope for you yet. She rose from her seat, gathering the coffee cups, moving toward the sink. Grace. She turned. Thank you. For being here. For saving him when I couldn't. For giving me a chance to make things right. Grace held his gaze, and something passed between them, understanding maybe, or the beginning of respect. Don't thank me, she said softly. Show me. Show him. That's all the thanks I need. She disappeared down the hallway toward the guest room, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts and the weight of everything that had changed in a single day. He sat at the counter for a long time, listening to the silence of the house, thinking about Catherine, about Oliver, about the woman who had walked into their lives and refused to leave. Tomorrow would be hard. Tomorrow would be the beginning of something new and terrifying and absolutely necessary. But tonight, his son was sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. Tonight, there was hope. And for now, that was enough. Marcus woke to screaming. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. The guest room ceiling was unfamiliar, the sheets too soft, the darkness too complete. Then he heard it again. Oliver's voice, high and terrified, cutting through the night like a siren. Mommy, Mommy, don't go. Marcus was on his feet before his mind caught up with his body. He ran down the hallway, heart pounding, and nearly collided with Grace outside Oliver's door. Let me, she said, reaching for the handle. No. Marcus grabbed her wrist. I need to do this. Grace hesitated, then stepped back. Okay. But I'm right here if you need me. Marcus pushed open the door. Oliver was sitting up in bed, eyes wide but unseeing, trapped somewhere between sleep and waking. His small body shook violently, tears streaming down his face. Mommy, please, please don't leave. I'll be good. I promise, I'll be so good. Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides and gathered his son into his arms. Oliver, Oliver, wake up. It's Daddy. You're safe. The boy thrashed against him, still caught in the nightmare. No, no, she's leaving. She's walking away, and I can't catch her. She's not leaving, buddy. Nobody's leaving. But she is. She's going into the light, and I can't follow. Marcus held tighter, feeling his son's heart racing against his chest. Oliver, listen to my voice. Just my voice. You're in your room. You're safe. Daddy's here. Slowly, painfully, Oliver's thrashing subsided. His breathing remained ragged, but his eyes began to focus. Daddy. I'm here, buddy. Right here. She was leaving again. Mommy was leaving and I couldn't stop her. I know, but it was just a dream. Just a bad dream. Oliver's fingers dug into Marcus's shirt. It felt real. It always feels real. I know it does. Miss Grace usually sings the song. Can you sing it? Marcus swallowed hard. His voice was wrecked from sleep and emotion, but he opened his mouth and began. Hush, little baby. Don't say a word. He sang the whole thing, every verse, his voice cracking and breaking, but never stopping. By the time he finished, Oliver's breathing had evened out and his grip had loosened. Better, Marcus whispered. A little. What else do you need? Water. Another story. Oliver was quiet for a moment. Then, in a voice so small, it almost disappeared. I need you to not leave. I'm not leaving. But you will. You always do. The words cut deep, but Marcus didn't flinch. Not tonight. Tonight I'm staying right here all night until the sun comes up. Promise. I promise. Will you lay down with me? Marcus looked at the tiny bed, clearly not designed for a grown man. I might not fit, buddy. Please, Daddy, I don't want to be alone. There was no argument against that. Marcus wedged himself onto the mattress, his legs hanging off the end, and pulled Oliver close. This is uncomfortable, Oliver observed. Very. But you're staying anyway. I'm staying anyway. Oliver smiled, a tiny thing barely visible in the darkness, and closed his eyes. Within minutes, his breathing deepened into sleep. Marcus stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, with its glow-in-the-dark stars, feeling his son's heartbeat against his arm. This was what he'd missed. Not just the nightmares, but the aftermath. The holding, the staying, the simple act of being present when someone needed you. He'd spent 4 years running from grief, and in doing so, he'd run from his son too. Never again. When morning came, Marcus woke with a crick in his neck, and a 4-year-old sprawled across his chest. Oliver was still sleeping, one hand clutching Marcus's shirt, the other wrapped around the teddy bear from London. You made it. Marcus turned his head to find Grace standing in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. Was there doubt? I wasn't sure you'd actually stay the whole night. Most people say they will then sneak out once the kid falls asleep. I'm not most people. Grace raised an eyebrow. We'll see about that. She set 1 coffee on the nightstand. Breakfast is in 20 minutes. Oliver likes pancakes on Saturdays. It's Saturday. All day last I checked. She disappeared before Marcus could respond. He looked down at Oliver, still sleeping peacefully, and felt something shift in his chest. This was real. This was happening. And he was going to get it right no matter what it cost him. Breakfast was chaos. Oliver insisted on helping with the pancakes, which meant flour everywhere and batter dripping off the counter. Grace supervised with the patience of a saint, while Marcus stood awkwardly by the stove, trying to flip pancakes without destroying them. That one's burning, Daddy. I can see that, buddy. Miss Grace never burns them. Miss Grace has practice. You should practice more. Marcus looked at his son, who was grinning with a mixture of mischief and genuine advice. You're right, Marcus said. I should. The pancakes were mediocre at best. Some burnt, some undercooked, all of them misshapen, but Oliver ate them like they were five-star cuisine. "These are the best pancakes ever, Daddy." "You don't have to lie to make me feel better." "I'm not lying. They taste like love." Marcus froze the fork halfway to his mouth. "What?" "Miss Grace says, food tastes better when someone who loves you makes it, even if it's burnt, because love is the secret ingredient." Marcus looked at Grace, who was suddenly very interested in her coffee cup. "She said that." "Uh-huh. When she first made me grilled cheese and burned it. She said her mom used to burn things all the time, but they were still delicious because love was in every bite." Marcus felt something warm spread through his chest. "Miss Grace is very wise." "I keep telling you that." After breakfast, Marcus pulled Grace aside while Oliver was distracted by cartoons. "I need to make some calls," he said. "Work stuff. Things I need to cancel or delegate." Grace's expression flickered. "Already?" "Not what you think. I'm canceling meetings, postponing trips. I meant what I said. I'm staying. But I need to handle some things first." Grace studied him for a long moment. "How long will it take?" "An hour. Maybe 2. "Fine. But you're back here for lunch. Oliver wants to show you the park." "The park?" "We go every Saturday. He's been waiting to show you the big slide." Marcus nodded. "I'll be there, I promise." "Don't make promises you can't keep." "I don't. Not anymore." He retreated to his study, a room he'd barely used, filled with books he'd never read, and awards that suddenly seemed meaningless, and picked up the phone. The first call was to his assistant. "Jennifer, I need you to clear my schedule." "For how long, Mr. Sterling?" "Indefinitely." Silence on the other end. "I'm sorry, sir, did you say indefinitely?" "I did. Cancel all meetings for the next month. Anything that can't be handled by the board or the VPs gets pushed to next quarter." "Sir, the Tokyo deal." "Can wait, or can proceed without me. I trust the team." "Mr. Sterling, are you all right?" Marcus thought about the question. Was he all right? His son had nightmares every night. His wife was dead. He'd spent 4 years building an empire while his child fell apart. No, he wasn't all right. But he was going to be. "I'm fine, Jennifer. Better than I've been in years. Just do what I asked." "Yes, sir. Of course." The next call was harder. Marcus dialed his business partner, David Chen, and braced himself. "Marcus, where the hell are you?" "The London team is going crazy." "David, I need to talk to you." "We're talking. What's going on?" "I'm stepping back." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry, what?" "From the company. I'm stepping back. Temporarily." "Temporarily? Define temporarily." "I don't know yet. A month, maybe longer." "Marcus, we have 3 deals in progress. The board is expecting." "The board will survive. You'll survive. The company will survive." "What happened?" Marcus closed his eyes. "My son needed me, and I wasn't there. For 4 years, David. 4 years of building this empire while my kid cried himself to sleep every night." David was quiet for a moment. "I didn't know it was that bad." "Neither did I. That's the problem." "What are you going to do?" "Be his father. Actually be his father for the first time since Catherine died." David exhaled slowly. "Okay, I'll handle things here, but Marcus..." "Yeah. This is the right call. I should have told you to slow down years ago. We all should have." "You tried. I didn't listen." "Then listen now. Take care of your kid. The company will be here when you're ready." Marcus hung up feeling lighter than he had in years. He made a few more calls, canceling a flight to Singapore, postponing a board meeting, delegating a presentation to his VP of operations, and then sat in silence, staring at the wall. 4 years. 4 years of missed moments, of empty promises, of choosing the wrong things for the right reasons. He couldn't get that time back. But he could do better. Starting now. When Marcus emerged from his study, Oliver was waiting for him in the hallway, already dressed in his park clothes. "You were in there forever, Daddy." "It was an hour and a half." "That's forever in kid time." Marcus laughed a real laugh, unexpected and warm. "Fair point. Are you ready for the park?" "I've been ready." Miss Grace already packed snacks. "What kind of snacks?" "Apple slices and cheese crackers, and juice boxes. But only one juice box because too much sugar makes me crazy." Marcus looked at Grace, who was gathering her bag. "Does too much sugar make him crazy?" "You have no idea." The park was a 15-minute walk from the house through streets lined with expensive homes and manicured lawns. Oliver held Marcus's hand the entire way, chattering about everything and nothing. The dog they passed, the cloud that looked like a dinosaur, the crack in the sidewalk that he always jumped over because stepping on it was bad luck. "Miss Grace and I have rules for the walk," Oliver explained. "You have to tell each other one interesting thing before you get to the park." "What kind of interesting thing?" "Anything. Something you learned, something you saw, something you're thinking about. Miss Grace says it's good to share your brain with other people." Marcus glanced at Grace, who was walking a few steps behind, giving them space. "What was your interesting thing this week?" "I learned that butterflies taste with their feet. Miss Grace read it to me from a book." "Isn't that crazy?" "That is crazy." "What's your interesting thing, Daddy?" Marcus thought for a moment. "I learned that my son is the bravest person I know." Oliver's face scrunched in confusion. "Me, I'm not brave. I cry all the time." "Crying doesn't mean you're not brave, buddy. Brave means keeping going even when you're scared. You've been scared for a long time, haven't you?" Oliver nodded slowly. "But you kept going. You got up every day, went through your routines, let Miss Grace help you. That's brave." Oliver considered this. "I guess so. But I'm braver now that you're here." "Why?" "Because superheroes are braver when they have a team." The park appeared around the corner, and Oliver's focus immediately shifted. "There's the big slide. Come on, Daddy, you have to see." He pulled Marcus toward the playground, and for the next hour, Marcus did nothing but play. He pushed Oliver on the swings. He caught him at the bottom of the slide. He chased him around the jungle gym until they were both breathless. "Daddy, you're really slow," Oliver observed. "I'm not slow, you're just really fast. Miss Grace is faster than you." "Is that so?" Grace, sitting on a bench nearby, raised her hands in defense. "I never said that." "She beat me in a race last week," Oliver said solemnly. "By a lot." Marcus grinned at Grace. "Maybe we should have a rematch, all three of us." Oliver's eyes went wide. "Really? Really?" "Okay, but I get a head start because I'm the smallest." "That seems fair." They lined up at the edge of the playground, Oliver in front, Marcus and Grace behind. On Oliver's count of 3, they ran. Oliver won, of course. His head start was generous, and both adults held back just enough to let him claim victory. But Marcus didn't care about winning. He cared about the look on his son's face when he crossed the finish line. Pure, unfiltered joy. When had he last seen that expression? Years, had he ever seen it before today. They ate their snacks on a blanket under a tree, Oliver wedged between Marcus and Grace, recounting his victory in exhaustive detail. "And then I looked back, and you were so far behind, and I just kept running and running and... We were there, buddy. We saw." "But did you see how fast I was? The fastest." Oliver beamed, reaching for another apple slice. "Daddy, can we do this every Saturday?" "Do what?" "This, the park, the race, the snacks, all of it." Marcus looked at Grace, then back at his son. "Yeah, buddy, we can do this every Saturday. And you won't cancel." The question hit harder than Oliver probably intended. "What makes you think I'd cancel?" "You used to cancel stuff, before. Mrs. Patterson said you were too busy." Marcus felt the weight of every broken promise he'd ever made settle on his shoulders. "I'm not too busy anymore," he said firmly. I told you you're more important than work. I meant it. Pinky promise. They'd done this so many times already, but Marcus understood that Oliver needed the repetition, needed the reassurance, needed to test the promise over and over until he could finally believe it. Pinky promise. Oliver smiled and returned to his snacks. Grace caught Marcus's eye and nodded slightly. A small acknowledgement, a quiet approval. It meant more than she probably knew. The walk home was slower. Oliver's energy finally depleted. By the time they reached the house, he was yawning every few steps. "Someone needs a nap," Grace observed. "I'm not tired," Oliver protested, rubbing his eyes. "Of course not. You're just resting your eyes." "Exactly." Marcus carried Oliver upstairs, feeling the small body grow heavier with each step as sleep took over. By the time they reached the bedroom, Oliver was out cold. Marcus laid him down, gently pulled the blanket up to his chin, and stood there watching him sleep. "You're good at this." He turned to find Grace in the doorway again. "At what?" "The dad stuff. When you actually try?" "Is that a compliment or a criticism?" "Both." She moved into the room, her voice low to avoid waking Oliver. "You have good instincts. You just buried them under work for so long you forgot they were there." "I didn't forget. I ran away." "Same thing." Marcus looked at his sleeping son. "How do I fix it? 4 years of damage. How do I undo that?" "You can't undo it. You can only do better going forward." "That doesn't feel like enough." "It's all anyone gets." Grace paused. "My mother used to say that guilt is useful for about 5 minutes. After that, it's just self-indulgence." Harsh. "True, though. You can spend the rest of your life feeling guilty, or you can spend it actually being there. One helps Oliver. The other just helps you feel sorry for yourself." Marcus absorbed her words. "You don't sugarcoat things, do you?" "Life didn't sugarcoat things for me. I don't see why I should do it for anyone else." They left Oliver's room, pulling the door mostly closed behind them. In the hallway, Marcus stopped. "Grace, I want to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "I'm always honest with you." "I know. That's why I'm asking." He took a breath. "Do you think I can actually do this, be the father he needs? Or am I just fooling myself?" Grace was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was measured but kind. "I think you want to do this, and I think wanting it is the first step. But wanting isn't the same as doing." "That's not really an answer." "Because I don't have an answer yet. Ask me again in a month, in 6 months, in a year." She met his eyes. "Parenting isn't a test you pass once. It's a test you take every single day. Some days you'll pass. Some days you'll fail. What matters is whether you keep showing up to take it." "And if I fail too many times?" "Then you try harder, or you get help, or you learn to forgive yourself and do better the next day." Grace's expression softened slightly. "You're not alone in this, Marcus. I'm here, and I'll tell you when you're screwing up." "Promise?" "That's the easiest promise I've ever made." Marcus laughed despite himself. "Most people don't promise to criticize their boss." "I thought we established I'm not just your employee anymore." "What are you then?" The question hung between them heavier than Marcus had intended. Grace considered it carefully before responding. "I'm Oliver's person, and I guess that makes me your partner, in the parenting sense." "Partner, co-pilot, teammate, whatever you want to call it." She shrugged. "We're both trying to help the same kid. That makes us a team." "I've never been great at teamwork." "I noticed, but you're going to learn." Grace turned toward the stairs. "Now come on. While Oliver's napping, we need to talk about the hard stuff." "What hard stuff?" "The stuff I told you I'd tell you tomorrow. It's tomorrow now." Marcus followed her down to the kitchen, a knot forming in his stomach. Grace poured them both coffee, her answer to everything apparently, and sat across from him at the counter. "Oliver needs professional help," she began. A child psychologist, someone who specializes in grief and trauma. I know. You mentioned that before. I'm mentioning it again because I need you to actually do it. Not promise to do it. Not think about doing it. Actually do it. I will. When? This week. I'll find someone and make an appointment. Grace nodded, satisfied. Good. Second thing, the nightmares aren't going to stop overnight. They might get worse before they get better, especially now that you're here. Why would they get worse? Because change is scary, even good change. Oliver's been surviving on routine and low expectations. Now everything's different. His brain is going to need time to adjust. Marcus processed this. So what do I do when they happen? What you did last night. Hold him. Sing to him. Stay with him until he feels safe. Don't try to fix it. Just be there. That's it. That's everything. Grace's voice was firm. Don't underestimate the power of presence. Most of the time, that's all anyone really needs. What else? Grace took a breath. There are things Oliver told me, things he might not tell you. At least not yet. Like what? He blames himself for Catherine's death. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. What? He thinks that if he hadn't been born, she would still be alive. That he killed her by existing. That's insane. He was a baby. He was a baby who grew up hearing that his mother died giving birth to him. How else is a child supposed to interpret that? Marcus's hands were shaking. I never told him that. I never said anything about how she died. You didn't have to. Kids pick things up, overheard conversations, the way people look at them, the things that aren't said. Grace's eyes were compassionate but unflinching. He's been carrying this guilt for years, and no one ever told him it wasn't his fault. Jesus. Marcus buried his face in his hands. How do I fix that? You tell him the truth. Over and over as many times as it takes. You tell him that his mother loved him more than anything. That she chose to have him knowing the risks. That her death was a tragedy, not a punishment. Will he believe me? Eventually. Maybe. If you're consistent. Grace reached across the counter and touched his arm. This isn't going to be easy, Marcus. I need you to understand that. The damage goes deep. It's going to take years to heal. I don't care how long it takes. Good. Because he's going to test you. He's going to push back, act out, say things that hurt. He's going to see if you'll leave again when things get hard. I won't. Prove it. Not to me, to him. Every single day, prove it. Marcus lifted his head and met her eyes. I will. I swear to God I will. Grace held his gaze for a long moment. Then she nodded. I believe you. Now let's talk about what happens next. They talked for hours about routines and boundaries, about therapy options and school considerations, about all the practical details of rebuilding a life. By the time Oliver woke from his nap, they had something resembling a plan. Daddy! Oliver appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair mussed from sleep, teddy bear dangling from one hand. Hey buddy, good nap. I had a dream about Mommy. Marcus's heart clenched. A bad one. No. Oliver climbed onto the stool next to his father. A good one. She was smiling. She said she was proud of me. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. She is proud of you, Oliver. So proud. She said she was proud of you too. Marcus couldn't speak. His throat had closed completely. Oliver leaned against his father's arm. Daddy. Yeah, buddy. I'm glad you came home. Marcus wrapped his arm around his son and held him close. Me too, Oliver. Me too. And somewhere in whatever place exists between memory and hope, Marcus could almost hear Catherine's voice telling him it wasn't too late. It was never too late to start over. The first therapy appointment was on Tuesday. Marcus had spent 2 days researching child psychologists, reading reviews, checking credentials, making calls. Grace had helped narrow the list to 3 candidates. Oliver had no idea what was coming. Where are we going, Daddy? Oliver sat in the back seat of Marcus's car, kicking his feet against the seat in front of him. Grace was in the passenger seat, her hands folded in her lap. "We're going to meet someone," Marcus said carefully. "A nice lady who helps kids talk about their feelings." "What kind of feelings?" "Any kind. Happy feelings, sad feelings, scared feelings." Oliver's kicking stopped. "Is this because of the nightmares?" Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror. "Partly. But it's also just a good thing to do. Everyone needs help sometimes." "Do you get help?" "I'm starting to." Oliver considered this. "Will Miss Grace come too?" "I'll be right in the waiting room," Grace said, turning to face him. "The whole time. And if you need me, you just say the word and I'll come in." "What word?" "Any word. You could say banana and I'd be there." Oliver giggled. "Banana is a funny word." "That's why I picked it." The therapist's office was in a small building downtown, sandwiched between a coffee shop and a bookstore. Dr. Rachel Morrison came highly recommended, 20 years of experience with childhood trauma, a gentle manner, and a waiting list that Marcus had somehow bypassed with a combination of persistence and he suspected his name. "Mr. Sterling." The receptionist looked up as they entered. "Dr. Morrison is ready for you. You can go right in." Marcus held Oliver's hand as they walked down the hallway. Grace stayed behind, settling into a chair with a magazine she clearly had no intention of reading. Dr. Morrison's office was warm and cluttered in a deliberate way. Toys scattered across the floor, art supplies on a low table, beanbag chairs in bright colors. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes that crinkled when she smiled. "You must be Oliver," she said, crouching to meet him at eye level. "I'm Dr. Rachel. I've heard a lot about you." Oliver pressed closer to Marcus's leg. "What did you hear?" "That you're very smart and very brave, and that you like dinosaurs." "I like T-Rexes best. They have tiny arms, but they're still scary." Dr. Morrison laughed. "That's a very good observation. Would you like to see the dinosaurs I have?" She gestured toward a shelf filled with plastic figures. Oliver's eyes widened. "You have a triceratops?" "I do. Would you like to play with them while I talk to your daddy for a minute?" Oliver looked up at Marcus, seeking permission. "Go ahead, buddy. I'm right here." Oliver released his father's hand and moved toward the dinosaurs, already reaching for the triceratops. Dr. Morrison guided Marcus to a corner of the room, far enough for privacy, but close enough that Oliver could see them. "Thank you for bringing him in," she said quietly. "Based on our phone conversation, it sounds like Oliver has been through quite a lot. More than I realized, more than I should have let happen." "Self-blame isn't helpful, Mr. Sterling. What matters now is that you're here." "Everyone keeps saying that." "Because it's true." Dr. Morrison watched Oliver arrange the dinosaurs in a line. "I'd like to meet with him weekly if possible. The first few sessions will be about building trust. I won't push him to talk about anything he's not ready for." "How long will it take to help him?" "There's no timeline for healing. Some children process trauma quickly. Others take years. Oliver's grief is complicated by the absence of a mother he never knew, and a father who—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Who wasn't as present as he could have been." Marcus flinched. "I know. I'm not judging you. I'm just being honest about what we're working with." Dr. Morrison turned to face him fully. "Oliver will need consistency from you. The same bedtime routine every night. The same people in his life. The same expectations. Children who've experienced loss cling to predictability because it makes them feel safe." "I can do that." "Can you? Your assistant mentioned you travel frequently for work." "Not anymore. I'm stepping back." Dr. Morrison's eyebrows rose slightly. "That's a significant change?" "My son is more significant." She studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Good. That's exactly what he needs to hear. But more importantly, it's what he needs to see. Actions, Mr. Sterling. not words. I understand. One more thing. Dr. Morrison lowered her voice. Oliver may resist therapy at first. He may have sessions where he refuses to talk or acts out. That's normal. The worst thing you can do is give up or use therapy as a punishment. I would never. Parents do it without realizing. If you don't behave, we're going back to the doctor. It undermines everything we're trying to build. I won't do that. Good, she smiled. Now let me spend some time with him. You can wait outside with Ms. Williams. Marcus hesitated. He might not want me to leave. Let's find out. Dr. Morrison crossed the room to where Oliver was making the T-Rex battle the Triceratops. Oliver, your daddy is going to sit in the waiting room while we play. Is that okay? Oliver's head snapped up. He's leaving. Just to the waiting room. He'll be right outside the door. But what if I need him? Then we'll go get him. He's not going anywhere. Oliver looked at Marcus, his eyes wide with uncertainty. Marcus crouched down to his son's level. I'm going to be right outside, buddy. 20 feet away. If you need me, you just tell Dr. Rachel and I'll come running. Promise? Pinky promise. They locked fingers. Oliver held on for a moment longer than necessary, then slowly let go. Okay, he whispered. But don't leave. Never. Marcus forced himself to walk out of the room, closing the door behind him. In the waiting area, Grace looked up from her magazine. How'd it go? He let me leave. That feels like progress. It is. Grace set down the magazine. Sit down. You look like you're about to pace a hole in the floor. Marcus sat, but his leg bounced with nervous energy. What if this doesn't work? What if I've already damaged him beyond repair? Children are resilient, more resilient than adults give them credit for. How do you know? Because I was one of those children. Grace's voice was quiet but steady. After my father left, I spent years convinced it was my fault, that if I'd been better, smarter, quieter, he would have stayed. That's not true. I know that now. But it took time, and therapy, and a mother who never stopped telling me I was worthy of love. She paused. Oliver has that now. He has you telling him he matters. That's more than I had from my father. Marcus was silent for a moment. I keep thinking about all the nights he cried himself to sleep while I was in boardrooms on the other side of the world. All the times he needed me, and I wasn't there. You can't change the past. I know. But I can't stop seeing it either. Grace reached over and placed her hand on his arm. Then use it. Let it fuel you. Every time you want to slip back into old patterns, remember those nights. Remember what it cost him. And what it cost you. Grace withdrew her hand. What do you mean? You gave him everything for 3 weeks. Your time, your energy, your heart. That took something from you, too. I didn't mind. That's not what I asked. Grace was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than Marcus had ever heard it. There were nights I went home and cried. Not because of Oliver, because of me. Holding him reminded me of holding my brothers when they were scared. It reminded me of my mother who used to sing to us in the dark. It reminded me of everything I'd lost. Grace, I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because you need to understand something. She met his eyes. Love is expensive. It costs you pieces of yourself. But it's worth it. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of pain, it's worth it if the person you love ends up okay. Is that why you stayed? That's why I stay for anyone. Grace shrugged. I can't save the world, but I can save the people in front of me. That's enough. The door to Dr. Morrison's office opened and Oliver emerged holding a piece of paper. Daddy, look what I made. Marcus stood quickly, his heart lifting at the sight of his son's smile. What is it, buddy? It's a picture of our family. Oliver held up the drawing proudly. See? That's you, and that's Miss Grace, and that's me in the middle. And that's Mommy in the sky watching us. Marcus took the paper with trembling hands. The drawing was crude stick figures and wobbly lines, but the meaning was unmistakable. Oliver had drawn them as a family. All of them. "It's beautiful," Marcus managed. "Dr. Rachel said I could take it home. She said I should put it somewhere I can see it every day." "We'll put it on the refrigerator, right in the middle." Oliver beamed. "Can we get ice cream on the way home?" "Absolutely." "Can Miss Grace come?" "Of course she can." Oliver grabbed both their hands, Marcus on one side, Grace on the other, and pulled them toward the door. "Come on, the ice cream place closes soon." "It's 11 in the morning," Grace said. "They're definitely not closing soon." "You don't know that." They walked out into the sunshine, the three of them connected by small hands, and something deeper that none of them could name. The days that followed fell into a rhythm. Mornings started with breakfast, usually pancakes or eggs, depending on Oliver's mood. Marcus was getting better at not burning things, though Grace still handled anything that required actual skill. Then came playtime, either in the backyard or at the park. Oliver had an endless supply of energy, and Marcus found muscles aching that he'd forgotten he had. Afternoons were for quieter activities, reading, drawing, watching the occasional cartoon. Oliver insisted on showing Marcus every episode of his favorite show, a bizarre animated series about a dog who solved mysteries. "Do you actually like this show?" Marcus asked after the third episode in a row. "It's the best show ever, Daddy." The dog just ate a whole pizza in one bite. "That's why it's the best." Marcus looked at Grace, who was trying not to laugh. "Just go with it," she advised. "You'll learn to appreciate the pizza dog." Evenings were sacred. Dinner together, then bath time, then the bedtime routine that Oliver had drilled into Marcus until he could do it in his sleep. Teeth-brushing pajamas one story, gratitude's the song, always the song. Marcus sang it every night now, and each time it got a little easier. The grief was still there, would probably always be there, but it had transformed into something bearable, something almost beautiful. Catherine was gone, but her song lived on, and through it, she stayed with them. The nightmares didn't stop overnight, just as Grace had warned. Some nights Oliver slept through peacefully. Other nights he woke screaming, trapped in visions of loss and abandonment that no 4-year-old should have to carry. Marcus went to him every time, held him, sang to him, stayed until the shaking stopped. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the nightmares grew less frequent. "You're doing well," Dr. Morrison told Marcus at Oliver's 4th session. "He's starting to trust again. It doesn't feel like enough. It never does. That's how you know you care." 2 weeks into the new routine, Marcus received a phone call that tested everything. "Marcus, we have a problem." David Chen's voice was tense-clipped. "What kind of problem?" "The Tokyo deal is falling apart. Tanaka's team is demanding a face-to-face meeting. They're threatening to walk if you don't show up personally." Marcus closed his eyes. The Tokyo deal was worth $800 million. It was the culmination of 2 years of negotiations, the cornerstone of the company's expansion strategy. A month ago, he would have been on a plane within hours. "When do they need me?" "Tomorrow, maybe the day after if we push it." "How long would I be gone?" 3 days minimum, probably a week." "A week?" 7 days of missed bedtimes. 7 mornings of Oliver waking up without his father. 7 chances for his son to lose faith in him again. "David, I can't." "What do you mean you can't?" "This is $800 million, Marcus. I know what it's worth." "Then you know we can't lose it. The board will have my head if this deal collapses." "Then let them have your head. I'm not leaving my son." Silence on the other end. "Marcus, are you serious? You're going to tank the biggest deal in company history for my son?" "Yes. Absolutely." "This isn't like you." "I know. That's the point." Marcus took a breath. "Look, I'll do a video conference. I'll talk to Tanaka myself, explain the situation, but I'm not getting on a plane. He wants face-to-face." Then he'll have to settle for face-to-screen, or find another partner. Another long pause. You're really not coming. I'm really not. David exhaled. All right, I'll see what I can do. But Marcus. Yeah. I hope your kid knows how much you're giving up for him. Marcus looked through the kitchen doorway to where Oliver was showing Grace a new dinosaur he'd found in the toy box. He will, eventually. He hung up and stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of what he'd just done. $800 million. Gone. Or at least at risk. And he didn't regret it. Not for a second. Everything okay? Grace had appeared beside him, her expression concerned. Work stuff. They wanted me to fly to Tokyo. Are you going? No. Grace studied his face. That sounds like it cost you something. A lot of money. A lot of credibility. Marcus shrugged. Nothing that matters. You mean that don't you? I do. Grace was quiet for a moment. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and squeezed his hand. I'm proud of you. For what? For choosing him. For being here when you had every excuse not to be. Marcus felt something warm spread through his chest. It shouldn't be remarkable. Choosing your kid over money shouldn't be a heroic act. No, it shouldn't. But we both know plenty of parents who wouldn't make that choice. Grace's eyes were soft. You're not the man you were a month ago, Marcus. You're becoming someone better. Because of him. Because of you. He gave you the reason. You did the work. Oliver came running in, clutching a plastic stegosaurus. Daddy, Miss Grace. Look what I found. It was hiding behind the couch. That's amazing, buddy. Marcus scooped him up, holding him close. What should we name him? Steve. Steve the Stegosaurus. Yeah, Steve is a good name for a dinosaur. You're absolutely right. That night, after Oliver was asleep, Marcus found Grace on the back porch, staring up at the stars. Mind if I join you? It's your porch. That's not what I asked. Grace smiled slightly. No, I don't mind. Marcus sat down beside her, leaving a respectful distance between them. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. I might not answer. Fair enough. Marcus hesitated. Do you ever think about what you want? Not what Oliver needs, not what I need, what you want for yourself. Grace was quiet for a long moment. I used to want to be a teacher. I told you that. You did. Do you still want that? I don't know anymore. The dream got so far away I stopped looking at it. What if I could help you get it back? Grace turned to face him. What do you mean? I mean I have resources. I could pay for your education, cover living expenses while you finish your degree, whatever it takes. Marcus, I'm not trying to buy you. I'm trying to thank you. You saved my son. You saved me. The least I can do is help you chase something you lost. Grace's eyes glistened in the darkness. That's a lot to offer someone you barely know. I know you better than I know most people. I've seen who you are when things are hard. That tells me more than any resume or background check ever could. I don't want charity. It's not charity, it's investment in someone I believe in. Grace was silent for so long that Marcus thought she might refuse. Then quietly, I'll think about it. That's all I ask. They sat in comfortable silence watching the stars wheel overhead. Marcus. Yeah. Thank you. For seeing me. Most people just see the apron. Most people are idiots. Grace laughed a real laugh, warm and unexpected. You might be right about that. The next morning brought a surprise. Marcus woke to find Oliver standing beside his bed, fully dressed, holding a piece of paper. Daddy, wake up. I made you something. Marcus sat up, rubbing sleep from his eyes. What is it, buddy? Oliver handed him the paper solemnly. It's a certificate. I made it myself. Marcus looked at the drawing. In wobbly crayon letters it read, Best Daddy Award for Marcus Sterling. Reason he stayed. Below the words was a drawing of two figures holding hands, one tall, one small with a big heart around them. Marcus's throat closed. He couldn't speak. "Do you like it?" Oliver asked anxiously. "Miss Grace helped me spell certificate, but I did the rest myself." "Oliver." Marcus pulled his son into his arms, holding him tight. "This is the best thing anyone has ever given me. Really. Really. I'm going to frame it, put it in my office where everyone can see." Oliver beamed. "Miss Grace said you'd cry." "Miss Grace was right. She's always right." "Yeah." Marcus wiped his eyes, laughing through his tears. "She kind of is." Later that day, Marcus did something he'd been putting off for too long. He went to the attic. Grace stayed downstairs with Oliver, while Marcus climbed the narrow stairs to the dusty storage space where he'd locked away 4 years of memories. Catherine's things were exactly where he'd left them. Boxes labeled in his own handwriting. Photos, clothes, jewelry, journals. He'd never opened them, never had the courage. But today, he opened the one marked Journals. Inside were dozens of notebooks filled with Catherine's handwriting. Marcus pulled out the last one, the one dated during her pregnancy, and began to read. March 15th. Baby kicked today. Hard enough to wake me up. Marcus says it's a sign of a future soccer player. I think it's a sign of a future troublemaker. Either way, I can't wait to meet him. March 22nd. We picked a name today. Oliver. It means olive tree, symbol of peace and fruitfulness. I want him to grow up bringing peace wherever he goes. I want him to know he was wanted more than anything in this world. April 3rd. I've been thinking about what happens if something goes wrong. The doctors say everything looks fine, but I can't shake this feeling. So I'm writing this just in case. If I'm not there to raise Oliver myself, I need Marcus to know I chose this. I chose him. Every risk, every possibility, every unknown, I chose our son. Not because I didn't love living, but because I loved him more. Tell Oliver that his mother loved him before she ever saw his face. Tell him that carrying him was the greatest honor of my life. Tell him that wherever I am, I'm watching. I'm proud. I'm always, always with him. And Marcus, my love, my partner, my best friend, don't let grief steal your joy. Don't let fear keep you from living. Oliver needs you. All of you. Not the version that hides behind work or money or walls. The real you, the one I fell in love with. Be his father. Be present. Be brave. That's all I ask. All my love, forever and always. Catherine. Marcus sat in the dusty attic, tears streaming down his face, holding his dead wife's words against his chest. She had known. Somehow, she had known. And she had given him permission to live anyway. When he came downstairs, Grace took one look at his face and understood. You found something. Her journal. From the pregnancy. What did it say? Marcus took a breath. That she chose Oliver. That she wanted me to be his father. Really his father, not just a name on a birth certificate. Grace nodded slowly. And now? Now I'm going to do what she asked. Marcus wiped his eyes. I'm going to be brave. That night, for the first time, Marcus told Oliver about his mother. Not the sanitized version, not the fairy tale. The truth. He told him about meeting Catherine in college, about their first date at a terrible pizza place, about the proposal, the wedding, the pregnancy announcement that had made them both cry with joy. He told him about her laugh, her stubbornness, her terrible cooking that she refused to admit was terrible. And he told him that she had loved Oliver more than life itself, that she had written words just for him, saved in a journal that Marcus would give him someday when he was older. Oliver listened to everything, his eyes wide, his small hand clutching Marcus's shirt. So Mommy wanted me, more than anything in the world. And she knew she might have to leave. She knew it was possible. But she loved you so much that she was willing to take the risk. Oliver was quiet for a moment. Then, I thought it was my fault, that she died because of me. Oh, buddy. Marcus pulled him close. It was never your fault. Never. Your mother chose to have you. She wanted you. You were the best thing that ever happened to her. How do you know? Because she wrote it down, in her own words, and I'll show you someday when you're ready. Oliver snuggled closer. I'm glad you told me, Daddy, about Mommy. I should have told you a long time ago. It's okay. You told me now. That's what matters. Out of the mouths of babes, Marcus thought. His 4-year-old understood forgiveness better than most adults. I love you, Oliver. I love you too, Daddy. Oliver yawned. And I love Miss Grace. And Steve the Stegosaurus. Marcus laughed softly. That's a lot of love. Miss Grace says you can never have too much love. She says hearts stretch to fit. She's right about that too. She's right about everything. Yeah. Marcus kissed his son's forehead. She really is. Oliver fell asleep with a smile on his face. And for the first time in 4 years, Marcus felt something that had been broken inside him begin to mend. He wasn't whole yet. Maybe he never would be. But he was getting there, one day at a time, one bedtime at a time, one pinky promise at a time. And that was enough. 6 months passed. Marcus barely recognized the man he used to be. The suits that once defined him hung unworn in his closet. The phone that used to buzz with urgent messages now stayed silent most days. The empire he'd built continued running without him, not perfectly, but well enough. David had stepped up. The board had adjusted. The world hadn't ended. And Marcus had become a father. Real father. Present father. The kind Catherine had asked him to be in her journal, the words he'd read so many times he could recite them from memory. Oliver was different too. The nightmares hadn't disappeared entirely. Dr. Morrison said they might never completely go away, but they'd faded from nightly terrors to occasional bad dreams. He slept through most nights now. He laughed more. He stopped flinching every time Marcus left a room. Daddy, watch this. Oliver launched himself off the backyard swing, flying through the air for a heart-stopping moment before landing in a heap on the grass. Marcus's heart nearly stopped. Oliver, are you okay? Oliver popped up, grinning, grass stains on his knees. Did you see how far I went? I saw. You almost gave me a heart attack. Miss Grace says I'm a natural athlete. Miss Grace needs to stop encouraging you to give me heart attacks. Grace appeared on the porch holding 2 glasses of lemonade. I said no such thing. I said he has good coordination. Good coordination that he uses to launch himself off swings. That's how boys learn. Grace handed him a glass. If he's not getting scrapes and bruises, he's not living. That's a terrifying philosophy. That's reality. Marcus took a sip of lemonade, watching Oliver run back to the swing for another attempt. 6 months ago, he would have been in a boardroom right now. Probably Singapore or London or Tokyo. Somewhere far away, missing this exact moment. The thought made him physically ill. You're doing that thing again, Grace said. What thing? The thing where you stare at him and look like you're about to cry. I'm not about to cry. You have that look. What look? The grateful look. The I can't believe I almost missed this look. Marcus couldn't deny it. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who's been watching. Grace had been watching. She'd stayed just as she'd promised. Not as a housekeeper anymore, Marcus had hired someone else for that, but as something harder to define. Oliver's caretaker. Marcus's co-parent. A member of their strange, cobbled-together family. And something else, too. Something Marcus had been trying not to name. Can I ask you something? He said. You always can. When you said you'd think about going back to school, have you thought about it? Grace was quiet for a moment. I have. And I enrolled. Online program through the state university. I start classes next month. Marcus turned to face her. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to do it on my own terms, not because you offered or because I felt obligated. Grace met his eyes. You've given me a lot, Marcus. A job, a home, a family. I needed this one thing to be mine. I understand that. Do you? I do. Better than I would have 6 months ago. Marcus paused. I'm proud of you. Don't get sentimental. Too late. Oliver came running over, breathless and grass-stained. Daddy, I'm hungry. Can we have grilled cheese? You had grilled cheese yesterday. But I want it again today. What if we try something different? Maybe pasta. Oliver considered this with the gravity of a Supreme Court justice weighing a landmark decision. Can it have cheese on top? Yes. Okay, but Miss Grace has to make it because yours is always mushy. Grace laughed. He's not wrong. Thanks for the support. Just being honest. They walked inside together, Oliver between them, holding both their hands. It had become automatic now, this formation, this connection, the three of them moving as a unit. Marcus didn't know when it had stopped feeling strange and started feeling like home. Dinner was noisy and messy and perfect. Oliver talked nonstop about a movie he wanted to see, a game he wanted to play, a question he had about why birds could fly and people couldn't. Because people don't have wings, Marcus explained. But we have airplanes. Those are like wings. Not exactly. If I taped wings to my arms, could I fly? Absolutely not. Please don't try that. But what if the wings were really big? Still no. What if I jumped off something really tall? Oliver, I'm begging you, please don't jump off anything tall. Grace was laughing so hard she almost choked on her pasta. This is the best dinner conversation we've ever had. This is a nightmare. It's fatherhood. Same thing. After dinner, Oliver insisted on showing Marcus his latest drawing, a family portrait that had evolved over the months. The first version had been 3 stick figures. Now it was more detailed, more colorful, more confident. See, this is you, Oliver said, pointing. And this is Miss Grace. And this is me. And this is Mommy. Catherine was still in the sky watching over them, but she'd gotten wings in recent versions. Oliver had decided she was an angel now. And look, Oliver continued, pointing to a new addition. That's Steve. Steve the Stegosaurus made it into the family portrait. He's important daddy. He protects us from bad dreams. Marcus looked at Grace. Did you teach him that? That one was all him. Oliver carefully placed the drawing on the refrigerator right next to the Best Daddy Award certificate that had been there for months. Okay, buddy, Marcus said. Time for bed. But I'm not tired. You said that last night too, and the night before. Because it's always true. Nice try. Let's go. The bedtime routine was second nature now. Teeth pajamas, story gratitudes, song. Marcus had added his own touch over the months, a special handshake they'd invented together, 7 steps long and completely ridiculous. Okay, what's your gratitude tonight? Marcus asked, settling onto the edge of Oliver's bed. Oliver thought hard. I'm grateful for Steve, and pasta with cheese, and that Miss Grace is going to school so she can be a teacher. You know about that? She told me. She said she's going to learn how to help other kids like me. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Of course Grace had told Oliver. She told him everything. Treated him like a person, not a child to be managed. What's your gratitude, Daddy? Marcus looked at his son, this small, resilient, incredible human being who had survived so much and still found reasons to be grateful for dinosaurs and cheese. I'm grateful for you, Oliver. Every single day. Oliver smiled. That's what you said yesterday. Because it's true every day. You're allowed to pick something different. I know, but I don't want to. Oliver reached up and hugged his father tight. I'm glad you stayed, Daddy. I'm really, really glad. Me too, buddy. Me too. Marcus sang the song, Catherine's song, their song now, and watched Oliver's eyes grow heavy. By the time he reached the last verse, his son was asleep. He stayed for a few minutes longer, just watching, just being present. Then he crept out, leaving the door cracked, the hallway light spilling through. Grace was waiting in the kitchen, 2 cups of tea on the counter. "He's out, like a light." "Good." She handed him a cup. "We need to talk." Marcus's stomach dropped. That's never a good opening. "It's not bad. Just important." They moved to the living room, settling on the couch with space between them. Grace cradled her tea, not drinking, gathering her thoughts. "I've been offered a job," she finally said. "What kind of job?" "Teaching assistant position. At a school in Hartford. It's part of the education program. I'd work during the day, take classes at night. It would be perfect experience for my degree." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. "Hartford. That's 2 hours away." "I know. You'd have to leave." "I know." Silence stretched between them. Marcus stared at his tea, unable to speak. "I haven't said yes," Grace added quietly. "I wanted to talk to you first, both of you." "Why?" "Because you're my family. Whatever decision I make affects you too." "Grace, you can't turn down your dream for us." "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." Marcus forced himself to meet her eyes. "You've given us everything for 6 months. You've put your life on hold to help raise my son. You deserve to chase what you want. And if what I want is here..." The question hung in the air, heavy with implications neither of them had dared to voice. Marcus set down his tea. "What are you saying?" Grace was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm saying that somewhere along the way this stopped being a job. Oliver stopped being a client's child. You stopped being my employer." She paused. "I don't know when it happened. I just know that when I think about leaving, it feels like leaving home." "Grace, I'm not asking for anything. I'm not expecting anything. I just needed to say it out loud before I made this decision." Her eyes glistened. "Because if I go to Hartford, I need to go for the right reasons, not because I'm running from something here." Marcus reached across the space between them and took her hand. "You're not running from anything. You're running toward something. Your dream. Your future." He squeezed gently. "And you should take that job." "But..." "No buts. Oliver and I will be fine. We'll visit. We'll call. We'll make it work." Marcus's voice cracked slightly. "You've already given us more than we could ever repay. Now it's your turn to live your life." Grace's tears spilled over. "I don't want to leave him." "I know. I don't want to leave you either." The admission cracked something open in Marcus's chest. "I don't want you to leave," he said quietly. "But I can't ask you to stay. Not when there's a whole world out there waiting for you." "What if I want you to ask?" Marcus looked at her, this woman who had walked into his kitchen as a stranger and become everything to his son. To him. "Grace, you deserve someone who can give you their whole heart. I'm still putting mine back together. I know that. I don't know if I'll ever be whole again. Catherine took pieces of me when she died. And Oliver needed so many more pieces that I'm not sure what's left." Grace reached up and touched his face. "That's not how hearts work, Marcus. They don't run out. They grow. Every person you love, every piece you give away, it just makes more room." "That sounds like something your mother would say." "It is. She was right about everything." Marcus laughed wetly. "Yeah, she was." They sat in silence, holding hands, both of them crying now. "Take the job," Marcus finally said. "Go to Hartford. Become a teacher. Change kids' lives the way you changed Oliver's." "And then what?" "And then... we'll see. Maybe when you're done, when you've got your degree and your experience and everything you've worked for, maybe then we can figure out what this is. What if you've moved on by then?" "I won't." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Marcus met her eyes with an intensity that surprised them both. I'm slow, Grace. I spent 4 years running from grief, and another 6 months learning how to be a person again. I'm not going to suddenly speed up. Grace laughed through her tears. That's a terrible romantic declaration. I'm out of practice. Clearly. She leaned forward and kissed him. It was soft and brief and tasted like salt, but it meant everything. I'm taking the job, she whispered against his lips. I know. But I'm coming back. I know that too. And you better have your act together by then. Marcus smiled. I'll do my best. They told Oliver the next morning. Marcus had expected tears, screaming. A repeat of that first day in the kitchen, when Oliver had clung to Grace like she was his lifeline. Instead, Oliver listened quietly, his face serious beyond his years. So you're going to be a teacher? Yes, sweetheart. That's the plan. And you're going to help other kids. Kids like me who had bad dreams and needed someone. That's exactly right. Oliver nodded slowly. That's important. Those kids need someone. Grace's eyes filled with tears. You're not upset. I'm sad. But Miss Grace, you taught me that being sad is okay. And you taught me that people have to follow their dreams, even when it's hard. Oliver reached out and took her hand. I want you to follow your dream. Grace pulled him into a hug, sobbing openly now. When did you get so wise? She choked out. You taught me. I didn't teach you this. Yes, you did. Every day. Even when you didn't know you were teaching. Marcus watched them, his son, and the woman who had saved them both, and felt his heart break and heal at the same time. This was goodbye. But it wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Grace left on a Sunday. The whole house felt different without her, quieter, emptier, like a song missing its melody. Oliver handled it better than Marcus had feared. They established new routines, found new rhythms. The new housekeeper was efficient, but distant, which was probably for the best. Grace called every night, just as she'd promised. Oliver told her about his day, every detail, every discovery, every silly thought that crossed his mind. Marcus would take the phone after, and they'd talk until one of them was too tired to keep going. How's school? Marcus would ask. Hard, good, both. How are the kids? Amazing, terrifying, also both. Do you miss us? Every second of every day. It wasn't the same as having her there, but it was enough, for now. Dr. Morrison noticed the change in Oliver at their next session. He seems more at peace, she observed to Marcus afterward. The anxiety about abandonment is still there, but it's not controlling him anymore. He handled Grace leaving better than I expected. Because she left the right way. She prepared him, explained why, promised to stay in touch, and kept that promise. Healthy goodbyes are just as important as healthy hellos. I never thought about it that way. Most people don't. Dr. Morrison smiled. Oliver's making excellent progress, Mr. Sterling. But I want to ask, how are you doing? The question caught Marcus off guard. Me. You've been so focused on Oliver's healing that I wonder if you've addressed your own. Marcus was quiet for a moment. I found my wife's journal, from when she was pregnant. I've been reading it. How does that feel? Painful, but good painful, like cleaning a wound so it can heal properly. Have you talked to anyone about it? Grace, Oliver, you right now. I mean professionally. A therapist of your own. Marcus considered the suggestion. 6 months ago, he would have dismissed it. Therapy was for weak people, broken people, people who couldn't handle their lives. But he was broken. He always had been. He'd just been too stubborn to admit it. Maybe, he said finally. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. Winter turned to spring. Spring melted into summer. Oliver turned 5, and Marcus threw him a birthday party that Grace flew back for 3 days of chaos and joy, and a cake shaped like a T-Rex that Oliver declared the best thing in the entire world. Happy birthday, sweetheart, Grace said, hugging Oliver tight. You came. Daddy said you might be too busy. I would never miss your birthday. She shot Marcus a look. Never. Marcus raised his hands in defense. I said might. I was managing expectations. Manage them better. That night after Oliver was asleep, exhausted from sugar and excitement and the pure, overwhelming joy of being 5. Marcus and Grace sat on the porch watching the stars. One more year, Grace said quietly. Until what? Until I finish the program, get my certification, become a real teacher. You're already a real teacher. You know what I mean. Marcus nodded. I know. Have you thought about what happens then? Every day. And? Marcus turned to face her. And I've been doing what you said, getting my act together, working with a therapist, learning how to be a whole person instead of just a collection of wounds. That sounds healthy. It's painful as hell, but worth it. He reached for her hand. I'm not ready yet, but I'm getting there. I can wait. Are you sure a year is a long time? Grace laced her fingers through his. I've waited my whole life for something worth having. Another year won't kill me. What if I'm not worth it? You are. Her voice was firm, unshakable. You've always been worth it, Marcus. You just didn't believe it. I'm starting to. Good. Keep starting. Summer faded into fall. Fall surrendered to winter. The year passed in moments, some big, most small, all of them precious. Oliver started kindergarten, made friends, got in trouble for talking too much during story time, came home with art projects and permission slips and endless questions about everything. Daddy, why is the sky blue? Daddy, where do babies come from? Daddy, if I eat enough carrots, will I be able to see in the dark? Marcus answered every question, even when he didn't know the answer, especially then. They looked things up together, learned together, grew together. The nightmares faded to memories. Oliver still had bad nights occasionally, but they were rare now, storms passing through, rather than constant weather. Dr. Morrison officially discharged him after 18 months. He's a remarkable kid, she told Marcus at their final session. Resilient, kind, emotionally intelligent beyond his years. He had good teachers, including you. Marcus shook his head. I almost lost him. I was gone for so long. But you came back, and you stayed. Dr. Morrison smiled. That's the whole story, Mr. Sterling. Not the failure, the recovery. Grace graduated on a warm Saturday in May. Marcus and Oliver drove to Hartford for the ceremony, Oliver bouncing in his seat the whole way. Is Miss Grace going to wear a funny hat? It's called a mortarboard. And yes. Why is it called a mortarboard? I have no idea. Can I wear one? When you graduate college. That's forever away. It'll come faster than you think. They found seats in the auditorium. Oliver clutching a bouquet of flowers he'd picked out himself. Wildflowers, because Grace loved wild things. When they called Grace's name, Oliver shot to his feet and screamed at the top of his lungs. That's my Miss Grace! That's her! The entire auditorium turned to look. Grace, walking across the stage, burst out laughing. Marcus didn't even try to quiet Oliver down. He just stood up too and cheered until his voice went hoarse. After the ceremony, they found Grace in the crowd. She was still wearing her cap and gown, tears streaming down her face, diploma clutched in her hands. Oliver launched himself at her, nearly knocking her over. You did it! You're a teacher now, a real teacher. I did it. Grace held him tight, her voice breaking. I actually did it. I'm so proud of you. Oliver pulled back, his face serious. Daddy says I can only be proud of myself, but I think I can be proud of you too. Is that okay? That's more than okay, sweetheart. Oliver grinned and handed her the flowers. These are for you. I picked them myself. The lady at the store wanted to give me roses, but I said no. Miss Grace doesn't like fancy flowers. She likes the ones that grow wild. Grace's tears fell harder. They're perfect. You're perfect. I know. Marcus laughed, stepping forward. Congratulations, Grace. You earned this. Thank you. She looked at him, her eyes holding everything they hadn't said. For everything. So, what now? What's the plan? Grace took a breath. There's a school. Elementary school in Greenwich. They offered me a position. Marcus's heart stopped. Greenwich. 10 minutes from your house. Grace smiled through her tears. If that's okay with you. Okay with me, Grace, that's... I know. She stepped closer. I told you I was coming back. I keep my promises. Miss Grace is moving back. Oliver's eyes went wide. For real. She's going to live near us. For real. Oliver screamed a pure joyful sound and launched into Grace's arms again. This is the best day ever. Even better than my birthday. Even better than when Daddy made pancakes without burning them. That was one time, Marcus protested. It was a miracle. Grace laughed, holding Oliver, looking at Marcus over the boy's head. I'm home, she said softly. Welcome back. 1 year later, on a quiet evening in June, Marcus asked Grace to marry him. Oliver helped plan the proposal badly, but enthusiastically. He kept almost spoiling the surprise, then covering by saying ridiculous things like, Daddy definitely isn't hiding a special ring in his sock drawer. Grace said yes before Marcus finished asking. Was that too fast? She asked afterward, laughing through her tears. No, that was perfect. I've been waiting 3 years for this. I'm sorry it took so long. Don't be. Grace kissed him softly. You needed the time. We both did. Oliver burst into the room, unable to wait any longer. Did she say yes? Did she say yes? I knew she would say yes. I told you, Daddy. She said yes. We're getting a mom. The words hit Marcus like a wave. He looked at Grace uncertain. Is that okay? You don't have to be. I want to be. Grace's voice was thick with emotion. If Oliver wants me to be his mom, then that's what I'll be. Oliver threw himself at both of them, hugging them together. This is the best day ever. Even better than when Miss Grace graduated. Even better than pancakes. Everything is better than pancakes with you. Because pancakes are the worst. Hey, I've gotten better. Not really, Daddy. They stood there, the three of them, wrapped in each other's arms, laughing and crying and holding on tight. A family, broken and rebuilt, imperfect and whole. The wedding was small. Just a few friends, Dr. Morrison, David Chen Oliver, as ring bearer. They held it in the backyard, under the same stars Grace and Marcus had watched so many nights. Oliver gave a speech that he'd written himself with minimal help. Before Miss Grace came, I was really sad. I had bad dreams, and no one came. But then, she came and she stayed, and she helped me breathe again. And then Daddy came home and he stayed too. And now we're a family. A real family. And I think Mommy is watching from heaven, and she's happy because she wanted Daddy to be happy, and she wanted me to have someone to love me, and now I have two someones, and that's even better. There wasn't a dry eye in the yard. Grace pulled Oliver into her arms. That was beautiful, sweetheart. I practiced a lot. It showed. That night, after the guests had left and Oliver had finally crashed from exhaustion, Marcus and Grace stood in the kitchen, the same kitchen where everything had begun. Do you remember the first time you saw me? Grace asked. You were crying. Oliver was clinging to you. I thought you were some kind of intruder. I thought you were going to fire me on the spot. I almost did. Marcus shook his head. I was so blind, so focused on the wrong things. And now? Marcus looked around at the drawings on the refrigerator, at Oliver's toys scattered in the living room, at the woman standing beside him. Now I see everything. Grace leaned into him. Worth it. Every second. Upstairs, Oliver stirred in his sleep. No nightmares, not tonight. Just peaceful dreams of dinosaurs and weddings and a family that had chosen each other. In the kitchen, Marcus held his wife and thought about the journey that had brought them here. The pain, the loss, the years of running. The moment he'd walked through that door and found his son in a stranger's arms. He'd thought that moment was the end of something. It had been the beginning of everything. "I love you," he whispered into Grace's hair. "I love you too. Thank you for staying, for waiting, for not giving up on us." Grace pulled back to look at him, her eyes bright. "Family doesn't give up," she said. "That's what makes it family." Outside, the stars wheeled overhead, the same stars that had watched over them through all of it. And somewhere in the sky, Marcus could almost feel Catherine smiling. He had kept his promise. He had stayed. And in staying, he had found everything he never knew he was missing. A home. A wife. A son who believed in superheroes and second chances. A life worth living. True love isn't measured by the wealth we leave behind, but by the presence we give today. Children don't need empires built in their name. They need laughter at the dinner table, arms to hold them after nightmares, and someone who shows up when it matters most. Marcus Sterling had built an empire. But the greatest thing he ever built was this, a family forged in grief and grace, held together not by blood, but by choice. And that family was enough. More than enough. It was everything.